I have this theory about clowns. Don't worry, I'm not going to pop one up on the screen. That'd be pretty mean. I have this theory that some people are scared of clowns all the time, but everyone is scared of surprise clowns. If you went to the circus and saw a clown, you might be slightly creeped out by their exaggerated makeup, but you're at a circus, so they fit right in. However, if you were instead letting your dog go to the bathroom at night and glanced across your garden and saw a clown out there staring back at you, well, I think that'd be enough to at least put most people on edge. This theory works for clowns, but it can really be applied to anything. Spiders, loud noises, credit card charges. Any one of these things are fine when you're expecting them, but the moment you introduce the element of surprise, they start to make you sweat. But sometimes it's nothing in particular that causes the fear. Sometimes it's the fear itself that's unexpected. Due to the nature of this video being horror scenes surprising you in non-horror games, even naming the games I'm going to talk about inherently spoils the surprise of encountering them for the first time yourself. So, I'm going to steal from Jacob Geller and give you a set of 5 games. I'm talking about 3 of them, and 2 are decoys, so if you don't watch past this point, you won't know which ones have these types of moments, and can continue to go in totally blind. If you are anything like me, playing Subnautica is inherently scary. The oceans are a vast world of horrifying possibilities at the best of times. Add in an alien planet and complete isolation, and you have a combination that has me on edge from looking at the Steam page. That said, in the early hours of the game, it does an excellent job of easing any tension. After your crash landing, the deep waters of the planet are initially horrifying and alien, but as you explore your surroundings, you adjust to your new home. The waters near your drop pod are fairly shallow, taking only a few seconds at most to get from the surface to the seabed, or vice versa. You still have the occasional panic where the oxygen meter gets away from you and you have to rush to the surface, but aside from that, it's a relatively relaxing experience. Now sure, you may run into the occasional hostile creature, but they're nothing you can't either outrun or fight if you really have to. After a few hours, you'll expand your toolset to include the Seamoth, a compact submarine that allows you to travel deeper than ever before without having to worry about coming up for air. You stop needing to visit the surface at all and join nearly all other life on this planet as you call the world beneath the waves your home. Eventually, the time will come when you need to venture to your crashed ship in search of new materials, and to do so, you need to prepare. Not only is the journey further than anywhere you've travelled yet, it's also literally bathed in radiation, requiring a special suit to even get close. Once ready, you hop in your Seamoth and head on over. Once you arrive, you're so busy worrying about the radiation and finding a way inside that you never even see it coming. If you've managed to play this game spoiler-free, then chances are you have a moment just like this seared into your memory. When you initially get close to the ship, the Leviathan lets out a deafening roar, but that's no guarantee you'll see the source. If it catches you, especially off guard, you're so panicked that you can't possibly react before your submarine, your home away from home, fastest mode of transportation, and most importantly, source of oxygen, light, and comfort, is torn to pieces in an instant. You are now stranded further from home than you've ever been before, with a giant beast capable of tearing you apart in an instant. But perhaps the most horrifying part about all of this is after it's torn your sub to scrap metal, instead of circling back to swallow you whole and finish the job, it simply swims off into the distance until it quite literally disappears into the vastness of the ocean. Before this, you thought this area was fairly safe and even a beautiful place to build a little home for yourself. Now, every single time you can't see the bottom or spot a flicker in the distance, the thought of the Leviathan will creep back into your mind. The fact that something so large and powerful could be hiding anywhere and that you'd never see it coming till it was far too late, will haunt you for the rest of the game, and alter your perception of the planet forever. What makes this so terrifying to experience beyond the surprise is just how well the game convinces you that the area will be empty of any threats. A few days prior to making your way over, the ship explodes, launching radiation into the surrounding area. It's the entire reason you need the radiation suit, as you will quite literally die of radiation poisoning without it. If you need to go to all this trouble just to get close, how could anything else possibly be alive out there? Once you arrive in the area, you see the terrain is also completely barren of any vegetation, and there are no smaller fish roaming around. Realistically, it makes no sense that a creature so large could survive in an area with no viable food source and enough radiation to kill or create the Hulk. These probably aren't things you'll even think about, but you'll just assume them to be true given what you've seen so far. The game tricks you into thinking you know far more about this planet than you do, and plays into the typical video game fantasy, where you're the protagonist, so obviously will be the apex being no matter the situation. The Leviathan is there to remind you that there is still a lot that you don't know, and that you should assume that there are far more powerful beings than you, the deeper you travel into these waters. A game where you are undoubtedly the most powerful being alive is Cyberpunk 2077. In a world where body modification is as casual as going to the dentist, it's no wonder that some people take things to the extreme, but the protagonist V takes things to an entirely new level. The reasons for this are a little convoluted and lore heavy, so I'll keep things simple. Normally, if you install too many modifications or cyberware, it puts too much strain on your mind, and you have a psychotic break where you attack everyone on sight. One of the side questlines of the game sees you subdue a series of these cyber psychos, and even with their advanced level of cyberware, you're still able to take them down with relative ease. V's mind, and by extension body, has been infected with the spirit of Keanu Reeves, and as such is able to sustain a lot more cyberware than most without suffering any consequences. This results in an endgame V practically being a god amongst the mortals of Night City. In the case of my V, she made use of the Sandevistan, a device that effectively stops time, allowing her to dash around areas, slicing enemies to pieces, often ending fights before they can even begin. Of course, there are other playstyles, but no matter what path you choose, cyberware plays a major role in helping you reach the pinnacle of your power. Regardless of your build, over the course of a single playthrough, you'll mow down hundreds of gangoons, corpo mercenaries, and various robots without so much as breaking a sweat. Now you might be wondering why I'm telling you all of this. Well, there's a mission where all of that godlike power means precisely nothing. To tell you about that mission, I first have to give you a spoiler warning for the mission Somewhat Damaged, which is towards one of the endings of the Phantom Liberty expansion. I'm not going to discuss plot points or even characters, but this will still spoil a mission that is best experienced for the first time blind, so consider yourself warned. The mission sees you entering a bunker on the trail of a friend, and pretty much from the first moment you set foot in the place, things start to get a little bit weird. As you move deeper into the facility, you come across visions of this friend's past that disappear when you get too close. This is perhaps the most literal representation of a ghost you can see, echoes of times long past and almost forgotten. It's not all that scary, but it's something that has never happened in the tens or even hundreds of hours you've played so far, so it catches you off guard when you first see them. Eventually, you need to connect to the bunker systems to try and open a path forward. This being Cyberpunk, connecting means literally connecting a wire from your body to the computer terminal, and when you do, you're not only locked out, you also have all of your cyberware disabled. In an instant, you go from an unstoppable killing machine to a very painfully normal human. And then comes the cherry on top of the entire situation. Just as you're working on a more manual solution to progress forwards, you're intercepted by the Cerberus. It's a highly advanced mech that would give you a run for your money at the very peak of your power. Now, when you're reduced to a mere mortal, there's no possible way you can ever hope to make a dent. Instead, you must sneak around as it prowls the area for signs of life to eliminate before disappearing into the vents. Wonder what that's inspired by. you are being stalked by a mechanically perfect predator, and the environment challenges everything you've learned in the game so far. For instance, doors. In the far future of 2077, doors generally open both automatically and nearly instantly, allowing you to quickly hop from room to room without having to slow down. Whereas in the bunker, the aged technology that's been sat idle for decades is a little slower to get moving. You'll sneak over to a door and interact to open it and be sat waiting a few seconds before you can proceed. You're forced to slow your pace to a crawl and bend to the whims of the environment, and not the other way around. The same snail's pace is shared by most of the tech in the bunker. During your stay, you need to interact with a series of computer terminals to progress, and every time you do, you're locked into a lengthy process. All the while, you can hear the Cerberus closing in on your location. You're forced to turn your back on the threat and just hope that it doesn't find you. If you are spotted, there's no easy escape or fighting your way out like all the other stealth encounters in the game. Once it has eyes on you, it closes the distance with frightening speed and tears you to pieces before you can make a couple of steps. It's brutally unforgiving and makes you think twice about each and every step that you take. The game trains your mentality over the course of the near countless hours leading up to this moment. Even when you're hopelessly outnumbered or outgunned against an equally enhanced individual, you could rely on a mixture of weapons, cyberware, and maybe even a little bit of game skill to see you through. Here, against the Cerberus, not only have you lost a key pillar, even if you had all three, it probably wouldn't make much of a difference. The resources you poured into kitting yourself out with the most powerful loadout you can, and the hours spent getting better at the game are all completely worthless in the presence of an infinitely more powerful being. You go from apex predator to vulnerable prey in a matter of moments, and can only hope you can survive long enough to escape. That build-up of skills and resources is something shared by Half-Life 2. For the first few hours of the game, your arsenal is slowly increased, first with the iconic crowbar, and eventually pistols and machine guns. Some of these weapons are gifted to you by allies, but most of the time ammo comes from somewhere else. You see, the main enemy at the start of the game is the Combine. These are your standard humanoid enemies, and they exclusively use ranged weapons. Whenever they die, they drop whatever weapon they were using on the floor, and this is how you replenish the majority of your ammo. They also come with a very particular strategy. Since they rely entirely on ranged weapons, they keep their distance and use cover to avoid your fire. They may try to flank or flush you out with grenades, but no matter what, they very rarely close the distance. This early game trains you for a very particular gameplay loop. You enter a fight, expend your health and ammo to kill all enemies, and then wander around the battlefield scavenging what ammo you can so you're stocked and ready for the next one. Some of them will even drop small health packs, so you're always getting back whatever you may have lost during a fight. However, once you arrive in Ravenholm, things work a little differently. This area doesn't have any Combine, but what it does have is zombies. Lots of them. Fighting them flips just about everything you've learned so far about combat on its head. They're unable to use ranged weapons, so instead relentlessly march towards you until they can take a swing up close and personal. This means you can no longer play at your own pace and use cover whilst you reload or work out your next move. Instead, you have to constantly be on the move to keep your distance. Another consequence of their lack of weapons is a lack of ammo dropped. When they die, they just die. That means any ammo or health you spend fighting them, you're not going to get it back outside of the very sparse resource drops in the area. You still take all of your weapons and ammo with you when you arrive, but you very quickly realize how unsustainable traditional weapons are. Your one option that never runs out of ammo is the gravity gun, but you can't simply use it to shoot at enemies like the pistol or submachine gun. Instead, you have to pick up physical objects like saw blades or explosive barrels and launch them at enemies. With the right object, this is devastatingly efficient, but the complex mechanical process means this isn't an instant win button. Here's the full process of loading and firing the gravity gun. Step 1. Find something you'd like to shoot at an enemy. Step 2. Either hold right click on that object and watch it slowly be dragged towards you, or walk over to it until you've successfully picked it up. Step 3. Aim. And step 4. Fire. You have to complete these 4 steps for every single shot with this weapon, and of course, this is while zombies are relentlessly shambling towards you. This intentionally clunky process, the threat of approaching zombies, and the haunting sound design make Ravenholm into one of the most stressful areas in an otherwise action-packed game. Up until now, combat is a sandbox where you can play with your extensive arsenal of fun toys. Here, it's replaced with a feeling of panic as you scour the area for any viable projectiles. In that panic, it's easy to accidentally grab and launch an explosive object far too close, meaning you may take out enemies, but you're hardly any better off because of it. The worst areas are the buildings, where the close quarters make launching objects nearly impossible without accidentally hitting a wall and being left defenseless. All of this isn't even mentioning everything else that makes Ravenholm so scary. The area is practically a pitch black maze with lots of small, winding paths that loop back on themselves, making navigation into a nightmare, especially during stressful situations. The zombies in all their shapes and sizes are horrifying to look at, no matter if they're slowly walking towards you or leaping at you from across the street. Speaking of things leaping at you, if you take out the zombies and leave the heads intact, those creatures will jump off the useless carcass and continue their pursuit. These headcrabs are far smaller and faster than the zombies, making them nearly impossible to hit with the gravity gun without some exceptionally good aim, luck, or explosive power. Where Cyberpunk took away your power, Half-Life instead lets you keep it, but shows you just how quickly it can all come tumbling down. All it took was for enemies to stop dropping ammo, and you're reduced to a desperate fight for survival, rather than a one-man army / MIT-educated physicist.
Good job, Gordon. Throwing that switch and all. I can see your MIT education really pays for itself.
Can you tell I didn't know how to segue to the next part? As I've written this essay, as often happens, the theme has changed. Initially, I want to talk about what makes these moments from non-horror games so scary, and I think I've found my answer. Powerlessness. All 3 of these moments take power away from the player, each in their own unique ways. Subnautica has you pursued by a beast you can't possibly do anything to defend yourself against, leaving you powerless to watch as it destroys your sub. Cyberpunk strips you of your near-omnipotent combat capabilities and transforms you into a defenseless human, hunted by something that exceeds even the heights of your power. And Half-Life 2 takes away your ability to rely on your extensive arsenal and leaves you with the one option that causes the most stress with each and every shot. All 3 moments are unique, but they're all also the same. For you, the player, you are powerless, as the game that you were playing and probably having a great time is transformed before your eyes into something you were never expecting. Feeling powerless in life isn't hard, especially in the world today. Things are spiraling out of control with the world both literally and metaphorically being on the edge of boiling over into utter oblivion. As normal people, we don't really have any power in what's going on in the world at large, and that thought can be horrifying. If I let myself think too hard about the world and the likely consequences we are going to see over the next few decades, well, I'm not immune to that feeling of being powerless. But whilst I can't do anything about the world at large, about a drastic career change, I can do something about my world and that of the people around me. I can choose to do things that bring joy to myself as well as those I care about. I can choose to be as nice as I can to the people I interact with. I don't know if you've noticed, but most of the essays on this channel tend to be about something very personal. I don't mind telling you that I use this channel and these videos as a form of personal therapy. I find the things that scare me and I try to analyse and process them to make me feel at least a little bit better. I hope that if there's someone out there who's struggling with the same fears that stumbles across my video, that I might be able to do the same for them. We may not all be able to change the world, but I think that we all have the power to make it at least a little bit better for the ones around us.